This is Dr. Karen, and you are listening to the De Facto Leaders Podcast on the B Podcast Network, where I share up-to-date, evidence-based practices, my own experiences, and guest interviews designed to help pediatric therapists, educators, and aspiring school leaders design services that support social, emotional, and academic growth and set kids up for success in adulthood. Whether you want to learn effective strategies for your therapy session or classroom, be an influential leader on your team, or find creative ways to use your skills to advance in your career, I've got you covered.
Hey everybody, it's Dr. Karen, and welcome to episode 239 of the De Facto Leaders Podcast on the B Podcast Network. In this episode, I am sharing a clip from my conversation with my colleague, David Schipper, on the summer slide. This was originally episode 162. David and I get into a lot of different topics in this conversation, but I wanted to pull out this clip where he is talking about his son and the experience that his son had with learning to read. And also, it's our attempt to navigate a lot of the research and the phenomenon that is known as the summer slide. So ironically, I know that this episode is going live in October. And a lot of times when people are talking about the summer slide, it's usually everybody's freaking out in May, worrying about the summer slide and making sure that kids have what they need over the summer in order to make sure that we don't have this slide. So why am I talking about the summer slide in October? Well, part of it is because it's less of an issue about a slide or regression happening during a certain time of the year. What is more helpful is thinking about cumulatively, what is the progress that kids are making over time, especially for those students who are reading at a slower rate than other kids. I was hoping to have a clearer picture after this conversation, but honestly, every time I dig into this topic, I get more and more confused. There's a debate on, is it really important for kids to be working on academic skills in the summer? Should they be outside, playing and not worrying about school during the summer? Yes, they should be spending a lot of time doing those things in the summer, but I make the case that we should have some focused work on some of those more, quote, academic skills, again, reading, math, to make sure there is consistency over the summer. Not because we should be panicking about sliding, but because we want to think about those students who are already behind. And really that's the stance that David takes and that we really discuss in this conversation, which it's less about the fact that there's a slide during a particular time during the year. What we do know, even though personally I find the research on the summer slide very confusing to navigate, what I do know is that there is compelling evidence that shows that students who struggle to learn to read, especially those students who really rely on that direct instruction, which is a large percentage of students, many of them are already behind when it comes to summer. So if we choose to not work on any academic type work, if we don't focus on literacy at all during the summer, they're already behind. We're missing an opportunity for them to continue to build those skills. Again, it's not just about summer, it's what is that cumulative effect? Can we not just focus on this time of the year that is, maybe 2 to 3 months of time? Let's not just focus on one time of the year. Let's look holistically at what a student's year looks like. So yes, we know that students during the summer are probably going to be focused on less academic work. But instead, let's zoom out and not just think about summer and think about the summer slide in May when summer is imminent and it's right around the corner. Why don't we, at other times of the year, think holistically about the student's entire year and think about during this whole year, how much reading focus are we getting at different times during the year? How can we take advantage of these opportunities to build skills and students that we already know are going to be behind? How can we use practices that we know are backed by research and take advantage of the time that we do have, whether it's in the summer or whether it's through the other times of the year? One thing that I did want to share, which again is why I think it's important to be thinking about the summer or a student's entire year, not just when that time of year is coming around the corner, is because when I was in the schools, I had a group of students who we knew that they were going to regress in a lot of the skills that they needed over the summer. And every time we would be doing their IEPs, their parents would ask about extended school year services, and it would be May, and different people who were involved in the decision making said, we don't have the data to show that they're going to regress over the summer if we don't provide some type of programming. And some of the programming that we had available, there was a combination of community-based programming where kids were out in the community and we were focused on more functional type of things, as well as some work on specific academic skills. So there was an array of options that we had for students. But every year, when we just focused on summer programming, when it was around the corner, we were told we didn't have the data. So what I did, after a spring of many heated conversations around what programming would be offered in the summer, the next school year, I talked to some of my colleagues and we decided to start thinking about the summer in August. So in August, we were thinking about the summer, not the one that had just passed, but the one that was going to happen the next year. And we started thinking about what should programming look like for these students throughout the entire year. And most importantly, we started collecting data. And with that in mind, with the summer programming in mind, to think about what kind of data and information do we need this year in order to make good decisions in May about summer programming. So that's another case for why you need to think about summer programming and the entire year for a student, not just think about summer when it's time to make that decision at the end of the year. And this is whether you're on a school team thinking about extended school year for students, or whether you are simply working with parents to think about what kind of supports do they want to be putting in place over the summer. Now, it is natural that you are going to get an influx of questions in April and May when it comes to summer. But even if we're not making definitive decisions in the earlier times of the year, we still want to have that future decision in mind when we're coming up with programming and when we're making decisions about frequency and dosage and what recommendations we're making for families during the school year and how that might lead into summer. Again, as I said, I personally find the research very confusing, but what I do know is that we have sufficient evidence to say that many students are going to need that direct instruction. And my personal take is that we need to take advantage of all the time that we have. So one big question that often comes up here is, okay, what does that effective instruction look like? What should we actually be doing when we're working with students both during the school year and during the summer? How do we make sure that we have all these pieces in place? That is what I help you do in my signature program, Language Therapy Advanced Foundations. Language Therapy Advanced Foundations is my program that helps speech pathologists and other professionals working on language to create a system for language therapy. Creating that system is so important because it informs your direct intervention, but it also gives you a framework to think about what tools and strategies you might share with families and other educators so that you have tools and protocols that you can share with other people to explain what they should be working on outside of your sessions. But where we need to start is with our sessions, developing those protocols ourselves. That's what I help you do in Language Therapy Advanced Foundations for language therapy specifically, working on skills like vocabulary and embedding components of language like phonology, orthography, morphology, semantics, and syntax. To learn more about Language Therapy Advanced Foundations, you can go to drkarenspeech.com/language therapy. But of course, as you likely know, there is much more to cognitive skills. And once we build that language therapy protocol, we can continue to evolve and think about how we put the systems in place to ensure that support is embedded across the day. So I teach you how to create frameworks for building executive functioning using multiple service delivery models and put that support in place across a K-12 team in the School of Clinical Leadership. To learn more about the School of Clinical Leadership, you can go to drkarendudek-brannan.com/clinical leadership. Now, please enjoy this clip from my conversation with David Schipper.
And I have a younger son, a now 11-year-old son in 5th grade, and he needed help learning how to read. His teacher didn't identify vision problems when he was quite young. And as parents, we missed it also. He has astigmatism and needs to wear glasses. He essentially couldn't really see when he was in those early grades of elementary school. And one of our teachers at Strategic Learning Clinic taught him how to read over the course of approximately 1 year. And he now knows how to decode in English and French. The skills translated into French as well. He did the reading program in English. And he loves learning what he enjoys learning about. But he does not love learning in school, right?
Yeah.
And so the reason why, though, is because he's still behind in relation to his other 5th graders, most of the other 5th graders, because they learned how to read in grade 1. He only was an able decoder in the first half of grade 4, right? Like he only became a capable decoder, really an almost fully capable decoder, about a year and a half ago, roughly. And
so he had a lot of negative school experience probably before then.
He still does. He still does. He grapples with that second language of French.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult for him, and so for him, there's no question a summer slide every year for him. There is. So we've already established that when some students fall behind, they stay behind. Summer exacerbates that for sure, but they stay behind. They never catch up.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check the show notes for all of the links where you can go to learn about all of the great resources that we mentioned in this episode, as well as where you can go to learn more about Language Therapy Advanced Foundations, my program that helps SLPs and other professionals working on language to create a system for language therapy. You can learn more about the program at drkarenspeech.com/language therapy. As always, thank you so much for listening. It helps me so much if you leave me a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you found this useful, please feel free to share it with your friends or colleagues. If you are interested in being a guest, if you would like to invite me to be a guest on your show, or if you have a suggestion for a guest, please send me an email at talktome@drkarenspeech.com. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.